Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Hello, welcome back to Reclaim Within. I am your host, Ash. I'm so excited that you are joining me on this beautiful, sacred journey of life and of remembering how to reclaim within to create meaning in our lives that is woven into remembrance, into witnessing, into compassionate attunement, all of the things that make it all worth it. It's all sacred. It's all sacred. We just have to open up our hearts to remember how sacred it all is. My prayer for you today is that you remember that the tools truly meant to help you know yourself more deeply will not box you in. The right tools will help you listen more honestly, live more consciously, and return to the mystery of all that you are. Very recently, on my social platforms, I have announced that I have been feeling the call to come back into the conversation around astrology within my own life and as an offering to those in the world. I love being of service. I love helping us reclaim and remember. It's my favorite. But I took a pretty good break with astrology in my life. And to announce that I was thinking about coming back into it, the response I got from so many of you has been so beautiful. So many of you shared your excitement about the possibility of doing your reading with me again. And I just first off want to say thank you so much, truly. From the bottom of my heart, I feel so grateful for each and every one of you who reached out, responded, or simply just let me know that this part of my work actually still matters to you, or that it has made a difference in your life. That does not feel small to me. That feels so big and beautiful, and I'm just so grateful. And because of that, I actually wanted to talk more honestly today about my relationship with astrology and how I have been reweaving the way that I communicate with these cosmic mirrors in the sky and how we relate to them here on Earth. I want to talk about why I walked away from it and why I want to come back into relationship with it now from a very different place inside of myself. So astrology found me when I was around 13 years old. And at the time, my personal inner world and outer world was going through a really huge shakeup. My parents were moving through a divorce, and astrology gave me a language and gave me a mirror for what I was experiencing. I think the specific aspect that was happening in my chart, if I can remember correctly, was Uranus at the time was in Aquarius, exactly square to my moon in Taurus. And it felt like this moment of really huge upheaval around my safety, security, what I understood as safety and security, which is what the moon in Taurus very much represents. And that insight into who I am and also the greater understanding of what I might be here for and kind of the orientation that it allowed for me to orient to inside of myself, especially during such upheaval in my life, it helped me make sense of the things that I was feeling that felt too big for me at that age, and that I didn't know how to put into any words, especially at 13. And so I really fell deeply in love with that study. From that point forward, I studied it consistently. I read every single book I could get my hands on. Every time I went into a bookshop, I found the astrology books. Even I remember rummaging through Goodwills and finding some really old, really cool astrology books there. I would do my family's charts, my friends' charts, anybody who would let me look, I would look it up. I just loved learning about the archetypes. And I loved seeing how the same symbols could express so differently inside of different people. I remember for my young 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old self, it was such an interesting, complex question that kept me excited and confused at the same time. And one of the things that stayed with me for years and years and years as a huge question was my mom. My mom is a twin, and her twin sister are so different as humans, and yet they share nearly the same exact chart. And it was one of those things that confounded me, and it made me question it over and over and over again. It's stayed alive with me for decades. And it kept teaching me that astrology was never going to be as simple or as direct as people seemed to want it to be. So fast forward, I was in my mid-20s, and a beautiful friend of mine, Sam, told me that I should start giving astrology readings. And I remember feeling like, no way, absolutely not. Because at that point, astrology was something that was really sacred to me. It was something that I really loved. It was really personal. It was really private for me. It was such a passion that I had that was just mine. And I had studied it for years and years, but I never thought of it as something that I would be able to offer professionally. So she had me give her first reading. She had me read hers. So from there, I ended up giving it a go. And my first readings were donation based. And then I charged $1 a minute. And then as demand increased, my prices, it kind of grew from there. And by the time I was in my late 20s, I was giving readings almost full time. I was doing 5 to 15 readings a week, and sometimes I'd get up to like 25. I had an office in Denver, Colorado, and at the time I was doing most of my readings in person. And then COVID hit, and everything in my life turned upside down. I was also in the middle of my Saturn return, and everything shifted. And I started doing readings virtually, but then my whole life was just in such an earthquake moment that it all kind of shifted. And I went into much deeper consciousness work. And I started learning how to be a community builder and understanding how to help people expand their awareness through learning specific concepts, tools, practices, and through their own lived experience. My life moved in a completely different direction. I started traveling, I was building communities, I was holding space for people as they explored their own depths, their own consciousness, their own patterns, their own healing. In a lot of ways, astrology just moved into the background. But that's not the whole truth. The deeper truth is that over the last 4, 5, 6 years, astrology has been activating for me. I have noticed really big triggers arise in me around astrology, especially around the meme culture and pop culture astrology and the way it gets used or talked about really quickly online. It started to feel like people were using astrology as a victimization tool. Like they were taking these rich, symbolic, archetypal structures and using them as weapons against themselves and each other. Like, oh, that's why you're like that. You're a Scorpio, or it's okay. I don't have to figure this out. It's just my Saturn. Or like, just like a dismissive, that's just the way I am. It's just because this is my sign. This is just who I am. And it just felt so flattening and dismissing and confining. It felt like a sterilization of the depth and breadth of our vast, unique self-expressions of ourselves. And these ancient living archetypes that have been storytelling with humanity since the beginning of time. And honestly, I felt so disheartened that I shut down working with people in this way. I pulled all the way back and I just focused on being a community builder. But recently, So much has shifted in me, and I have integrated a lot of my own blocks and reconnected with my roots in astrology. And now I feel like I have words for what I was wrestling with back in 2020 when I shut it all down and when I stepped away from this way of weaving in the world. I now know with deep conviction what astrology actually is. Astrology is an archetypal language. It's a symbolic language. At its core, that's what it is. And like any symbolic language, it will meet you at the level of consciousness you are bringing to it. So if you are in a place where you feel stuck, in victim, collapsed, or committed to a black and white way of seeing the world, astrology will be interpreted through that lens. Like any ancient study, when used in a reductive manner, it can become a trap to reinforce the reality you are already living inside of. However, if you are willing to be curious, to question, to reflect, to hold paradox, to take responsibility for your life, then this archetypal language becomes something else entirely. It becomes a mirror, a map, a symbolic conversation, a way of understanding the deeper patterns at work inside of your own psyche, your family structure, your relationships, and your own path in this life. What I have come to respect even more deeply is that this ancient language will work with you at any level of consciousness that you bring to it. In my opinion, this does not make all interpretations equal. What it does mean is that the symbols themselves are as alive as the natural world around us is alive. And the consciousness that we bring to them matters. Another huge thing I've found words for is that astrology is absolutely not a belief system. Many of us come from that framework, that way of seeing, because of the belief structures that we were raised within. And I actually think something gets lost when people treat it as something you either believe in or do not believe in. That framing itself sterilizes it. It flattens the mystery. I would so much rather sit with someone in a reading and have them question everything they're hearing. I would rather that you grapple with what I'm saying. I'd rather you push against it. I'd rather you wonder about it, disagree with parts of it, get curious about why something does or does not resonate with you. Because that in itself is actually where the real value lies, not in passively receiving some sort of fixed identity to be categorized as somebody that's a part of this one specific herd, not in using astrology to explain yourself away as a placeholder for excuses, and not in handing your own power, your own agency, your own power of perception over to a chart. The real value comes in literally engaging with the symbols. The real value comes in seeing what they illuminate, what they bring up inside of you. The real value comes in recognizing that there is mystery here and that we are not supposed to fully dominate or master it. We are supposed to be in relationship with the mystery. The thing I love about astrology, and I tell people this when I do give them readings, is I record them now that I do them online via Zoom, and I tell them to put a notification in their phone in 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, and a year from now. And I say, when that notification comes up on your phone, Go back and listen to your reading. Every single time you hear something different, you hear something deeper, you have a new insight, you have a new awareness, because you're meeting the information differently, because you've grown and evolved and shifted, because the time has passed and you've been able to actually allow for these archetypal animist beings, energetic experiences. I don't even know what to call them. But you've let them seep into your psyche. You've let them work with you. The point where you're now able to actually experience them differently, even if it's the exact same reading. It's my favorite thing to have people come back and tell me years later, I re-listened to my reading and wow, that was potent. I learned so much even listening back. It's amazing. And it's validation that this is an archetypal language that is something alive and living that is in relationship with us. As above, so below is a Hermetic principle that has always mattered so much to me. I love the Hermetic principles. I will do a whole mini course about them one day because they are the secrets to how the universe is formed. They're like the original mapping. And the principle of correspondence lives inside of the study of astrology in such a profound way. When you begin to understand archetypal symbolism, you begin to understand that these symbols are not one-dimensional, and they're not just words. Venus is not just love in some simplistic way. Venus represents the archetypal expression of all things associated with this concept, this bigger, broader concept that we all have our own unique definitions of that we call love. Venus is value, attraction, beauty, relationship, magnetism, pleasure, harmony, desire, and the way that you uniquely relate to all that those specific energetics bring up inside of you. It's the way you receive, the way you make meaning through the connection. The symbols, every single one of them are layered, they're living, they're deeply relational. And that brings me back to the question that has followed me since I was 15, 16 years old about my mother and her twin sister. How can two people with almost the exact same chart be so vastly different? What I understand now, after decades of sitting with that question, is that the chart is a seed. It's a cosmic seed, a blueprint, a pattern of potential. But how that seed gets lived, shaped, resisted, nourished, distorted, embodied, or cultivated is profoundly unique to each individual person. And on top of that, we each have choice, agency. We have free will for how we respond to life. Free will is our ability to respond versus react. And the more conscious that we become, the more that we are able to consciously respond to the life around us, the more we can actually work with our blueprints and work with our family's blueprints rather than feel trapped by them and a victim of circumstance. Where I live right now, there are oak trees everywhere, and they all each carry a similar seed blueprint. And yet, none of them look exactly the same. None of their branches bend the exact same direction. None of them express in the same way. That is how I experience astrology now, as a living, symbolic language that can help us understand the shape of our soul, the patterns within our life, the gifts that we each individually carry, the tensions that we are here to work with, because we are here to be challenged and gifted, and the ways that we are being asked in this soul expression, in this time and space reality, each and every one of us are being asked to grow in very specific ways. We even ask each other to grow in very specific ways. I was born with my Pluto, which is like the deep transformational planet of upheaval and transformation and alchemy. But I was born with my Pluto on my father's sun, and he and I have had a very Plutonian relationship in my life, and it's taken me years to fully appreciate how deeply he's activated me into my soul's purpose and mission, and how much I feel like I've helped him actually shine into who he's really here to express as well. So it's amazing that looking at just one piece of someone's chart and how it connects with someone else's can give so much archetypal information about even the way that we're here to weave in each other's lives and how we're here to be a part of the tapestry as we navigate. I think a part of why I needed to walk away for a while was because I had a lot of my own shadow work to do around this practice of astrology. I had to sit with the parts of me that had no words for my frustrations with how I was witnessing astrology being held. And the part of me that felt so disheartened by watching something that I felt so sacred become flattened by mass culture. It needed space to integrate. And I also had to grow. I had to live more. I had to deepen my relationship with consciousness, with free will, with community, with shadow, with projections, with embodiment, with what it really means to help someone know themselves without reducing them or pretending like you know anything about them at all. And so now I feel really ready to return with much more humility and much more trust in the mystery, and with more respect for the fact that astrology, when held well, can be a profound ally in helping us understand ourselves. So yes, I'm opening myself up to be in conversation around this with you if you'd like to explore your blueprint, your cosmic blueprint, and I'm going to be doing it differently. If you have been someone who has been curious about your chart, curious about astrology, curious about these archetypal patterns that are showing up in your life, or right now we're going through so much change, and it's really helpful to understand the shift and change of these archetypes and how they are specifically lighting up or connecting with your own unique blueprint and how you're here to show up in the world during these times of great change, I would be really honored to explore that with you if you desire, to help you enter a deeper relationship with your own symbolic language, with your own inner world, and with your own unfolding. Sometimes what is calling us back is not asking us to return unchanged, but to return with more of ourselves intact. And that's what I feel like I'm doing with this evolution back into astrology. If you feel like you feel challenged around astrology or confused, or if you'd like to just understand yourself in a new way, I would love to hear about that. And if you have a desire to sit with me and explore these archetypes, I will put a booking link in the show notes. I have also partnered recently with Ignite Your Aura to bring you monthly horoscopes blended with aura exploration. We are sending out newsletters once a month with a monthly forecast of what that month's going to look like and the highlights of that month, of the aspects to really look at. So go check out their website to sign up for that monthly report if you're interested, and get notified on all of those amazing goodies that we're actually cooking up for you right now. We're thinking about creating more content for you to be able to connect with the beautiful exploration of the archetypal language of astrology, and also the vibrant study of your aura and all things color. So that's all coming your way. As always, thank you so much for your support and for joining me in remembering how sacred this beautiful life is. I am so grateful for your time, for your attention. I know that it's a big deal to choose to take this time and spend it with me. So much love. Thank you.